All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. Jen, don't roll your eyes at me. It is morning here. And as always, I am your host, Adam Smith. I have not changed my name. Why I said it the way that I did. But welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. With us, as always, is our marketing director, Jen Waybor. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning. It's going to be one of
Yes,
those mornings, huh?
it is going to be one of those mornings. It feels like a Monday,
It
no
does.
question. And we've got a really cool guest for you guys today, a repeat guest. And if you know us and follow our podcast over 5 years now, 6 years, 5 years,
This is year 5.
and you're booked through 6.
Yes, I am.
Okay. We have booked the podcast guests weekly through 6 years, but back to the lecture at hand. We've got a repeat guest for you guys. And if you follow us, you know that you've got to really charm the pants off of Jen to get another spot on our podcast. So welcome back to the show, Michael Schaffer. Michael, even more morning where you are. Oh, Michael, are you with us? Uh-oh. I think we lost Michael. Jen, can you hear me?
I can see him.
I see Michael.
I can hear you
cool.
fine.
Okay, so the video cast is working. Michael cannot hear us. Are you there, Michael? Wow. Okay, so IT stuff going on. It does feel like a Monday for sure now. Well, maybe Michael will get back into the swing here. He's not muted, is he? We didn't accidentally pull him out of the... I see we have the opportunity to ban him from the studio, but let's not do that just yet. All right, well, maybe Michael's audio will get caught back up and he'll hear us, or we'll hear him and he can chime in. I was looking back over the previous podcast we did with Michael, and he had just moved to California.
Yep.
And I think we had discussed the fact that he was really contemplating running businesses from both places.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Colorado and California. And I'm seeing a whole lot more of that as I'm going through social media and checking out people's Facebook profiles and Insta pages and so on and so forth. I'm seeing a lot of agents kind of doing a dual state thing, whether it's Colorado and California or Colorado and Florida, those kinds of things. And obviously we talk a lot about the mortgage business having a ton of people in it that are licensed in multiple states.
Mm-hmm.
It's not uncommon, right? And people ask us all the time, hey, we're going to, move to Maryland. Can you do our loan? That kind of thing. And obviously there are mortgage companies out there, in fact, some that are owned by close friends and colleagues where they're licensed in many, if not all 50 states, but you work from one location. I sit my butt in my chair and I do my work. I think that's got to be really difficult in real estate. If Michael's back with us, are you there, Michael? He's still not hearing us or us hearing him. So we'll have to continue to fight those tech issues. But Jen, you've got to think that that's a tougher gig in real estate than it is in mortgages.
Yeah, I would absolutely think so. I mean, I can't even imagine trying to be super familiar with the market in Pueblo versus the market in Highlands Ranch. Like, really...
And you got to be present in both.
Right.
Now,
right.
Pueblo and Denver, there's some drive time there, but it's doable.
Right. Right.
It's Denver and LA is another animal altogether. And hopefully Michael can give us some insight. Now he's messing with his camera. This is actually pretty entertaining. It's strange that we're able to do this and talk about our guest while they can't hear us and we can't hear them. It's kind of fascinating. So, Michael, if you're able to rejoin us, then we will certainly have that conversation. I see him shaking his head.
He's gonna try to rejoin from his laptop.
Oh, I see him shaking his head some more. Michael, can you hear us? We just can't hear him. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I hear some background noise.
Okay, hold on.
All right. Oh, now we're back online.
There we go.
All right. So, Michael, you missed us introducing you. No, you're good. You missed us introducing you, so we're past that.
Okay, well.
We no longer care who the guest is. So we started to discuss where you were the last time we had you on the show. And then we kind of got into the discussion of how in the mortgage space, we see a lot of people doing business in multiple states. But then in the real estate space, that's got to be a unique challenge because you got to be there. You got to be present. You got to be hands-on. Your clients want you to look at houses, preview houses, so on and so forth. And forgive me because we haven't heard word one from you as of yet, but you're still doing business here and there?
Well, so I am now focused solely here in California, but we do have a team that searched Denver homes in Colorado. So I transitioned out of Denver by about this time last year. So I was working both places for a few months, relying on some people on my team to do on the ground there. But at this point, I have shifted completely to California. Obviously, when there's things that are coming back and forth, I can use our team in Colorado. They can use me here. But yeah, now I'm focused just on the California market now, because like you said, it is, you do have to be there, and the markets are very different. I mean, they are just really different markets.
Oh, everywhere. Yeah, no question. Are you still seeing an enormous exodus of people leaving California for what they think are greener pastures? Obviously, we had a ton of that here for years prior to the pandemic. More people moving to California from California to Colorado than you could shake a stick at. What's the market like now?
Some of that is, frankly, I think a lot of that is bad data, because what we're actually having here is most of the outmigration is renters or people that are not homeowner profiles in California. They might be a homeowner profile somewhere else, but when at our minimum level to get in, most of those people are not homeowners here. So it isn't actually affecting our resale market much at all, because those people are still moving here. The people that can afford those homes are still moving here. Where it is affecting things is the rental markets, which basically, we've had a lot of new multifamily build, and they're all at high, luxury rental price points. So again, it's those higher earners, higher dollars that are coming here. We're also seeing more entertainment production coming back in Southern California that had gone everywhere else for the last 20 years. So again, that brings in a different profile of person as far as earning levels. Brings its own challenges. Entertainment business brings its own challenges because of the nature of the work.
I'll bet that's true.
Yeah, and I work with entertainment clients, and I used to be in that business, so I get it. I understand how that works, and a lot of times there it is about working with lenders that know how to handle that sort of thing, that know how to handle various forms of self-employment.
Yeah, those are unique forms of self-employment. We've seen quite a bit of work for professional athletes, not too dissimilar, lots of contractual bases, those kinds of things. Obviously, Denver isn't the hub of the entertainment industry by any stretch, but that certainly makes a difference. I'm willing to bet that our audience would gain a lot of insight about trials and tribulations, solid task load for moving their real estate business. Essentially, you did. You basically moved your entire operation with some transition. I was going to say you were probably on the show 15 months ago, 16 months ago, and you had just gotten to LA. You were legitimately like doing your first inspection. You were sitting in your car when we did that episode.
Outside a house in Watts, which was my first
outside
sale.
house in Watts. Okay, so the doors were locked on the car while we were doing the show. But there wasn't a whole lot of overlap, a few months, and it sounds like, and about a year ago, you basically went straight for your California business, what would our audience, what would other real estate agents who need to make a transition, the spouse's primary wage earner, we're relocating, I'm getting old and I'm tired of fucking shoveling the snow. You look at you nodding and smiling. You're not shoveling snow there anymore?
I am definitely not shoveling snow.
All right, fine. Bastard. So what kinds of things, did you learn? What kinds of missteps did you make in making that transition?
So much and so many.
Well, let's have a Michael Schaffer Scared Straight program.
Okay.
What should these people who have to make this move or are thinking about making this kind of move not do?
Don't assume that things are going to be immediate. Don't assume that the way that things work in your market are going to work in any other market. And that crosses both some things, prospecting, people are people, buyers are buyers. That isn't necessarily that much different.
Right.
But things that you don't even think about, like practices in the industry. I mean, coming from the Denver market, something as simple as setting up showings. In Denver, it's really easy. Almost everybody uses a showing service. Almost everything's on on lock boxes, unless it's luxury level. And it came over to this market, and I realized, wow, I have to call or text every agent and meet them there almost every time.
Wow,
it's far more time consuming, and that could be on a $500,000 condo or something, or a $10 million house. So much more friction. I would say in a market like this, that I think the reason it is that way here in Los Angeles is just history, just more history. A place like Denver is just people are more tech forward. People are younger in general. So that's one thing is expect to spend a while figuring it out. As we know, licensing classes don't teach you anything. So of course I had to take my California exams. So what? That was easy because there really isn't anything different on an exam in one state than in another necessarily.
Yes, absolutely no practical application whatsoever.
Right, and here I had to go through the whole thing. There's no reciprocality. Okay, I had to do 135 hours of classes that I already knew. But then with regard to transitioning the business, I would say that it would be if I wasn't part of a team, that would have, it almost would have been impossible, or just had quite a bit of resources, because it's going to take a while to get lead gen flowing, things like that. We're primarily online lead gen driven, which just takes time and money. And so, if somebody's trying to do that as an individual, they're going to need some wherewithal to do that. Databases take a while to mature. It's not like you turn it on and you're immediately selling. It's going to take a little bit of time. So yeah, I think that some of the mistakes, thinking that things were going to come about quicker than they were. Also, not being in the market yet. I've actually switched offices, still within Keller Williams, but I switched from one office to another because I didn't necessarily make the right choice at the time. Didn't know enough. So you have to be willing to adapt. That I think that's really key, is be willing to adapt, be really willing to learn, do things like, I hadn't gone, in Denver, I was working there for a long time. I didn't have to go to broker opens and stuff to learn the inventory. Here I did. And not to mention just geography, depending on where you're going. If you're transitioning to a smaller market, okay, well, there's a little bit less that you're going to have to figure out. Transitioning to a market where there's 12 million people in the metro area and massive geography, there's just a lot to learn. Even though I had lived here for years and years and years, but I wasn't in the real estate space at the time.
So a lot of it is reminiscent of you starting brand new. We understand that
In
it's a
some ways,
marathon,
yeah.
not a sprint. It's a career, not a job. And you've got to bring that same mentality that you brought when you were new, that, yeah, it's not a spigot you just turn it off. You've got to build up your contact database. You've got to build up your audience. You've got to lay groundwork. You've got to plant seeds that will eventually bloom.
Absolutely.
All right. So there is one thing that you had mentioned that kind of has me a little perplexed, although I think there might be some redundancy in my personal experience. You had mentioned the technology, right? And certainly as a nation, maybe even globally, we think American technology and we immediately think California, right? And maybe that's a relic from when I was a kid, Silicon Valley, so on and so forth. But I do remember saying repeatedly for years and years that the agents in Colorado don't know how good they have it with CTME.
Absolutely.
It is an amazing platform. But I was, and Jen will probably have a better handle on my calendar than I do, but I was in San Francisco for a day to have lunch with some friends, Lindsay and Brady, if you're watching or listening. And at the time, you were still required to show proof of vaccination to go into those public areas, in those indoor public areas in San Francisco. And I pull out my phone and I open my Colorado app. Sure, there's my vaccination card. Okay, prove that's you. I need your ID. Swipe. There's my ID. And the guy at the door and my two colleagues who are wearing their their Vax cards around their neck on a lanyard are looking at me stunned. Like, and I'm like, what? They're like, this is so cool. And I'm like, how does California not have this technology? How is Colorado so far ahead of the game with something like that? When, of course, as a kid, I always thought California was the tech capital of the world, certainly of the nation. So yeah, there are some things that are lacking there,
and we do have that, by the way.
Okay, we do now.
We've had that for since vaccinations became a thing, I guess.
All right.
With technology, like you mentioned, CTMA, I mean the systems here are just not even close to as good as some of those. And then some of it's not actually just the systems too, just MLS. What do you as a listing agent have to put in MLS as far as information? In the Denver RE Colorado market, there's 50, 100 required items. You have to list out the rooms and where they are in the house and all of that. Here, I see listings that have literally no information in them. Just about nothing. Occasionally they don't even have an address, but no, I'm actually not kidding. But it's that actually I think has more to do with the profile. It has to do with a couple of things. MLS boards. Here there are dozens and dozens of them. You go 2 feet and it's a different board. Now they're all feeding into a reciprocal MLS. But the board, there's got to be 200 boards in California, 300 boards.
Wow.
And they all hate each other. And so you end up with, you just go 10 miles over and practices are different. And then there's also a lot of, I think language barriers are more of an issue here, where we definitely have a lot of communities that are, very heavily one language or another. I think there's 200 different languages spoken in LA. So sometimes that impacts things too when you're working with other agents that may not be as fluent.
Well,
in
it's
English.
just not their first language,
or a second, or third,
or okay. Fair enough. I've got to assume a lot of that has to do with the population. I mean, you said it yourself. Yes. The area, the LA metro area is triple the size of the Denver metro area.
Yeah.
And I've got to assume that includes real estate agents. How many are there?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Because you know what? I don't worry about it. They can take care of themselves. I'll take care of myself.
Yeah, but it's just a lot of information to wrangle.
It is, and actually, where I find that the biggest challenges in that, especially because I and my team work a wide geography, is having all of that sort of micro market knowledge. And what I've always done in the past, what I've had to do a lot more here, is learn how to really assess and learn a micro market within 30 minutes. And if basically what I do with that is when I have a buyer or a seller in a certain area. Okay, great. I am going to learn everything about that area. And now I know it for the next time, because nobody in this town can know everything. It's
relate
just
that back
not
to me in a
possible.
language we speak. What are we talking about when it comes to a micro market? Say Wash Park. Is that a micro market?
I mean, I would call Wash Park like a micro market.
Okay.
Like that is very sharply targeted. I would in a Denver, I would include Baker and those areas. That's all sort of the same. So here, when I talk about a micro market, it might be Santa Monica north of Montana. That is a specific market. Or where I'm sitting right now in Los Feliz. Los Feliz has a couple of micro markets. Often here it's north of the boulevard, south of the boulevard, just in the different areas. Okay. And they can be very different. So again, it's about learning specifically what that is. We also have a broad range of a very broad range of prices. Within a 10-minute drive of me, I could find homes, let's just say single family, as low as $700,000.
Right, we figured.
As high as $40 million.
Within a 10-minute drive of you.
Within a 10-minute drive of me.
And that doesn't get you very far in Southern California.
Right. It pretty much gets me from here to my house, which is just across the neighborhood.
So walking distance.
Yeah.
Literally within walking distance, the houses could range from $700K to $40 million.
Right. Now, those 40 millions are probably in the hills, so walking can be a little bit tough at those places sometimes. But yeah.
I'm guessing you haven't done the Manitou incline.
Oh, I have, actually. So, but yeah, just a broad range of both types of homes. The other thing is that things are obviously Denver's at the foothills of the mountains, but Denver's pretty flat. The topography is pretty stable there. Oh, yeah. Here, it's also more difficult to comp because we've got a lot of hills, and those hillside lots.
Oh, those hills separate pockets like it's unreal.
Right. Well, and just costs. I mean, you could get a tear down and build in the flats for. I don't know, maybe you're building at 600 a square foot or something like that, selling at 1,000 a square foot. But in the hills, your build cost in some places might be $2,000 a square foot.
Wow.
Because you're having to do caissons 60 feet down. There's a lot of other things that go into it here. It's been great to learn those things. That's one of the exciting things about moving to a different market. Now, I would not recommend it just for hey, I want to move somewhere. I mean, it was, this was about a personal, relocation back to the city I wanted to be in that I had been away from for a while. But I also lived here for many, many years. So going to someplace completely fresh, that's going to take even more time. At least I already knew Los Angeles. I had been here for years and years. I'd gone to school here. And had some network here too. That helps as well.
That helps, no question. So let's rewind a little further. What kind of prep work did you do to make this move?
A lot. Well, and so one of the things that this was one of those COVID benefits of COVID was that when we hit that lockdown point in March of 2020. Was right at the time when I was sort of starting to be able to, okay, now we're going to make this transition. So I got to use lockdown to take my licensing exams, to start through that year to start finding the right brokerage, which, like I said, I actually didn't. I love how it worked out because I got to get my feet wet in one place, then come into the place where I am now at Keller Williams Los Feliz. that is great. Like I came in with a lot more knowledge. But yeah, so I was taking Zoom meetings with people out here, talking to different agents, brokers here during that pandemic time. It actually worked out well, and especially because things were far more locked down here than in Denver. So I was going to I was in Denver by June of 2020. Things were cooking. We were selling. We were out there. But California wasn't. So I actually used it to my advantage where, okay, I could be in Colorado in 2020 and be working on that preparation, talking to people here, having Zoom meetings, things like that, and just learning the markets.
Okay. Okay. That's really practical, tactical kind of activity to make that move. And, the rest of us are really kind of living in what I would describe as a more virtual world that way.
Mm-hmm.
I can pretty much do my work from anywhere, and my clients don't want to see me. They don't even want me. They just want my money. Right?
Right.
That kind of thing. That one always cracked me up, and I still get that question a lot from younger loan originators. Do you go to your closings? No, they don't want me there. They just want the money there. Just make sure the money is there. They don't care about that.
Realtors don't even go to closings here.
Oh, that's interesting.
We
Interesting.
we don't have closings.
Well, and I was going to say, let's describe the difference because California is an escrow state.
Right.
So there are some things that are unique about that. And I've done some work in California. So it was really a weird transition going the opposite direction. But buyers don't meet sellers.
No.
We're not passing the keys across the closing table. That kind of thing. So yeah, there are some unique nuances between wet states and dry states, table funding states and escrow states. So yeah, that's certainly one of those unique pieces of the puzzle, no question.
And an extra day to close because we have to wait for recording here.
Also, yeah, if memory serves, escrow periods usually like 48, 72 hours. From the time everybody kind of gets the closing ball rolling to the time you're done.
Yeah, typically. I mean, what happens here, which is a little different, is just whenever everything's ready, the escrow calls the clients, says, "Where do you want me to send the notary?" And they send the notary out, and then once those documents are back and funding is in, then they send it to title to record, and it records the following day. And then you're closed. So it's just a matter of when escrow has all those documents and when funding happens. Things are a little looser here, though. We tend to see more closings slip by a day or two than they do in Colorado. And we also don't. We have with that. We don't actually have specific dates in the same way because, like with contingencies, they have to be affirmatively released by the buyer. So it's not like, we got past, September 22nd, which was our inspection objection date, like in Colorado, and it's September 23rd. Sorry, you can't accept, can't object anymore. Here, if we didn't release the contingency and they didn't give us a demand to do it, contingency can stay in place throughout the whole escrow.
Interesting.
And that's on the listing agent to make sure that those things are happening, and often they don't.
Interesting.
All right, Ben, I know we're going to run over. I see you. But I'm not done. So let's get Michael on again.
All right.
Michael, what's the best thing about making the move? What's the highlight for you?
Being back in Southern California. That's the highlight. The other thing is, I will say that, some interesting clients, interesting leads. I have. I'll tell you one thing. I have had 3 leads now in the last few months that when talking to them, I could tell that they were actually being online scammed by somebody because they believed that they were engaged to one of a celebrity. And so sometimes you have to weed out the crazies a little bit more here, and that's kind of fun. But also things like, I just, I had a couple I sold to earlier this year who was fantastic, came in through my normal online lead generation, worked with them for several months as they were relocating. Turns out their son is a very well-known celebrity. And so, got to meet him. He was involved in the purchase. I mean, there are just some things that happen a little differently here. Like we were literally standing on the corner in front of a house where we're looking at, and he's being recognized on the street. That doesn't happen as much in other markets. So always fun.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'll bet that's true. And Jen, I mean, you don't experience this either. I don't know that it's any secret, but for those of you that don't know, Jen does do a whole bunch of side gig stuff. You want to talk about the woman who embraces multiple streams of income. And one of that is you've been a VA and a marketing assistant forever, like since you hit adulthood.
Yep.
And you have clients all over the country.
I do.
You still have clients in Maine.
My longest client is in Maine. Yeah.
Right? And so this is so unique to us because literally I could do my job day in, day out, planted with my fat butt in this chair and never have to do anything differently. And here you are covering this enormous area, having to cover parts of Colorado and parts of California simultaneously a year ago. Yeah, it's just so foreign to us. But yeah. But Michael, thank you. I know that
absolutely
this is really I don't know, it's exciting stuff for us because it's like a life that we don't lead and frankly never want to. So yeah, that I'm locking my doors to do an interview while I'm sitting in my car in Watts. No, not
a little bit to me. It's just going back to I worked at a talent agency years and years ago, so I've been in that world forever. And so it's a little bit of a coming home to be back a little bit in that world, and I love working with actors and writers and all of that.
That's cool.
You mean servers and dishwashers?
No,
that's an old Hollywood joke too.
Well, they usually were at one point. My girlfriend's an actress, and certainly, she was there were times when she was a server, but not in many years.
But only because back then Uber didn't exist.
True.
Right. In the modern era, we'd all be doing that. All right. Yes. So, Jen, I know that you've got all kinds of other things going on, and you probably want to spill some beans about things like the mastermind. All right. Well, tell us what's cooking in Jen's world and what you want the audience to know about these days.
Yeah, Mile High Mastermind is like 3 weeks away, which is absolutely insane.
No, that's not true because it's at the end of summer. It's like at the beginning of fall.
Yeah, it's August 22nd, Adam.
Huh.
Yeah, right. Which is even crazier because then I'm going to Europe right after that. So I can't believe that is happening so soon either. But about 3 weeks, so Mile High Mastermind, September 16, 17 at the University of Denver. We're doing some more panels this year, which is fun. We're doing, a panel on TikTok and Reels. I'm going to walk people through how to really use the business suite to their advantage for social media posting. Adam's going to talk about contact management, going to pull out some of that OG content that he's been doing forever. September 16, 17, you can figure out how to get tickets by texting tips to 63566. There's lots of information there, including how to get a copy of Adam's book.
Oh,
just the tips.
Not a cat sitting on the book this week. There's not a cat
sitting on
it this week. We all get to see the book.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, the cats are hiding, which is odd. I'm a little afraid.
That's they're plotting.
That's probably
the odds of your cats killing you is slim, but never zero.
It's true. Yeah.
Right.
But you can also get all the episodes of the show. I mean, I can't believe we're in season 5. The weekly little tip is at the text code. You can book a free hour of coaching with us. Basically everything related to just the tips you can get by texting tips to 63566.
All the things.
All the things.
Cool. Well, Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
We love having you on the show. We get a little peek into life in Southern California and as it develops for you in particular. We'll have you back again, hopefully in the not too distant future.
I'd love to.
Jen nodding like, yeah, it's distant future, buddy.
Yeah. It's true.
I'm always amazed at how far you guys can manage to book out.
It's intense.
And I blame Jen for that. I don't know exactly what she did when she took the podcast to a new level, but there was like months and months of 9,000% increases in listenership. And now all of a sudden we don't have any problem finding guests for the show. Let's put it that way. So yeah, and it's really cool. And Jen, if they want to be a guest on the show, that text code will steer them in that direction as well, I think.
Yep, just reach out to me.
All right. But Michael, thank you. I know that
it's
tough to carve out this kind of time on a Monday morning, particularly in your gig. So we do really,
not a bad
really
way to get into the week. So
no, and I promise our audience is going to gain some serious insight from really seeing into the life of what these transitions look like.
Great. I hope so.
Bullshit. Yeah. All right. So for the rest of you, thanks for tuning in, either live or in syndication, either video or the podcast. And do know that we do this roughly every week, probably cranking out 45 episodes a year, Monday mornings at 10:30 Mountain Time. And you can tune in next time. Other than that, you guys all have a great week, and we'll see you then.